Good afternoon. Thank you all. I think we're all delighted to be part of the ICOM event, and also knowing that it is sunny outside and there is wonderful beer and wine in the region makes me even more grateful to all of you for bearing with us for this session. We all probably attend a lot of digital conferences, and I'm still staggered by how often in these digital conferences, I know this is broader, but how often in the digital conferences people talk about the death of TV. And I think we've probably all read in the last couple of weeks about an Accenture report that talked about linear TV being in free fall, with double-digit declines in TV viewing in most markets across most age groups. And albeit it has been a, I think, legitimately criticized report. I think it's patently not a sensible pronouncement to say that TV is anywhere close to dead. From a consumer perspective, I think we're in a golden age of TV. If you think about the content proliferation, arguably TV is overtaking, in many cases, the high ground of content creation from Hollywood. Many of the highest paid actors are now working in TV, not theater, not film. And you have the arrivals of Netflix and Amazon Prime creating very high quality content that's critically acclaimed. From a consumer perspective also, TV is now accessible to people anywhere on pretty much any device, meaning that desire for what someone wants, when they want it, where they want it is a feature of the way people are consuming TV. But clearly that consumption fragmentation is seriously stressing the TV commercial model. In the US, we're hearing a lot about cord cutting, and we're certainly seeing that whilst TV spend is being recorded as growing globally in most cases, if you dig a little bit into the data, it's quite frequently evident that the linear TV component is contracting or static at best. Now, TV is a 200 billion industry, and it's a very mutually dependent ecosystem of companies that are working to generate the content and distribute it, the agencies and the brands that are relying upon their business to be driven by an advertising TV model that is highly predictable. I think the evolution of a TV upfront model to a digital upfront model is another indication of an old-fashioned metric that serves the industry being carried into an environment where, frankly, it has patently little logic. And also there's a story of a meeting in 2002 between the then CEO of Viacom going to Mountain View and meeting Eric Schmidt, Larry Page, and Sergey Brin, and hearing about the AdWords model. And his phrase was, "You're fucking with the magic. This is how we make money." And he understood the risk to the commercial model of the accountability and individually addressed advertising model. So what I'm hoping this panel will help us all determine today is, will programmatic TV move the TV commercial model forward? Will it herald further instability? Or will it be a footnote in a future ICOM conference where we laugh that we took it so seriously to give it 40 minutes at the end of a day? To address these issues, I'm delighted to draw upon, I think, an incredibly senior and impressive panel of individuals. We have Arun, who's the global CEO of Cadreon. We have Brett, who's the global CEO of TubeMogul. We have Matt, who heads the Asia-Pacific region for the trade desk, but has a very long career in agencies and on the sales side, so will bring great context. And Simon, who is responsible for strategic systems decisions for GroupM across EMEA. So I'd like to thank them for taking part in this event with me. Can we start by establishing a common foundation of what programmatic TV is? And I'll ask Brett to take that first, if that's okay.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, everybody. By the way, thank you for calling me a global CEO. I've never been called that before. I clearly need to get out of the US more often, but programmatic TV is simply using software to automate TV planning and buying. The main benefit of which is the ability to target audiences that are deeper than age and gender. So I actually have a video to show you, if you could load it, to help you visualize what this looks like. And what you're going to see here, and thank you to my panelists for letting me do this, is how software can change the world's largest advertising market. Now, programmatic TV, it really begins like what you'd think. You enter a target, so it might be females 25 to 54. Then you enter campaign targeting parameters, budget and flight dates and day parts. And then next, you can choose, in the US at least, a national cable or a local broadcast buy. And then the magic begins because you can layer in targeting data, like people that own multiple vehicles. Now, the software is going to put together the best set of network and day part combinations to achieve the lowest on-target CPM for the demographic target and the strategic target, where the buyer gets to see estimated impressions by network. Now, let's do it again, but we'll target males 18 to 49 this time. Again, we'll put in our campaign targeting parameters, but this time, we're going to do a local buy in the US on local broadcast inventory. So again, we're going to layer in a secondary target beyond just age and gender, this time people that make over $100,000 a year, and then we're going to pinpoint specific geos where we want the ad to run. So a TV buyer in San Sebastian could, for the first time, do a hyper-targeted buy in the US. The software re-updates. It shows the estimated on-target CPM for the demographic target, called the GRP, the secondary target, and it shows you the estimated networks and network day parts. But where the TV planner or buyer still has total control, and they can add networks, they can blacklist networks, they can do whatever they want. It looks just like digital programmatic. Now, after they execute the buy, the software takes care of the rest, including showing daily reporting, where you can see the on-target impressions for the demographic target, the strategic target, impressions by network, by day part, and by day part by network. So the idea is to make buying and planning of television as simple as we do in digital and as transparent. So admittedly, it's very, very early. I'm sure you'll have lots of questions, but hopefully that gives you just some insight into just how game-changing this could be for our industry.
Amazing. I mean, I think, Brett, thank you, because I think that was awesome to see the degree of reporting and targeting granularity that's possible. But again, I just want to be very particular. Programmatic TV, I think we should define as linear TV that is bought and sold programmatically, video on demand, so broadcast TV that is time shifted or device shifted, and potentially non-broadcast TV, a Netflix-type model, and any form of addressable TV within that context. So not of confusion between digital video, it's TV across multiple devices or something that consumers will consider to be TV. And Arun, I'd love you to give a perspective from Cadreon, and I know we talked beforehand about for 3 years you've been operating in a programmatic TV environment, so I'd love you to give some color.
Yep. Thanks, Anthony. Good evening, everyone. So we consciously stay away from using the term programmatic, and we call it advanced TV because it has components that we think goes beyond the programmatic trading approach. So there is the programmatic audience buying that you can do, which is limited in terms of the inventory that you can do it on. There's also household addressable TV, and then there is targeting, which you can do at a zip code, DMA, or a zone level. And if you wrap all of this up, it really is very simply, how do you take the data sets that you get from a programmatic-like ecosystem and make TV addressable? And what we've seen is that this keeps changing, so the definition or the kinds of things that will become advanced TV in different markets will change, but broadly, these are the 3 or 4 areas that sort of sit under this.
And would it be possible, without being overly revealing too much commercial sensitivity, to suggest what sort of percentage of TV budgets you're seeing that are moving into a programmatic or an advanced TV model across regions, just to give us a sense?
So currently, this is primarily in the US. In the US, 3% of our total TV spend goes through this format, which is data-driven. We've just started, or we're in the process of starting this in Australia. We see that as a second market. Canada is another market which is starting off. We're starting a test with TV network. So we anticipate these will be the 3 markets that will lead it, and then there are other markets like the UK where with Sky Smart, et cetera, it's already happened. But then there are other markets like Netherlands, et cetera, where the broadcast partners, so TV and radio, both are getting into the space.
Matt, again, I think it's wonderful to have an Asia-Pacific perspective. I know that you've worked many years in Hong Kong and are now in Singapore. Would you be able to give us an idea of where the non-Western markets, obviously Australia is in the region, but is probably closer to a US, a European model. So looking beyond Australia, how are you seeing this evolving?
Australia's definitely going to be closer to what we see in the US. The rest of Asia, you've got a heavy government involvement in linear television, if not government ownership of linear television. And that sort of changes the nature of things considerably. The other thing is spend is very heavy in the linear space and very light across cable. And I think that probably the place where we're going to see a lot of inventory and a lot of possibility is if the cable guys can adapt fast enough. We're seeing the sort of early stirrings of over-the-top coming in. Australia's got Netflix as of this month. China's got dozens of differing sort of television models for online television. And Southeast Asia has got Singtel and another group looking to enter the market within months in the over-the-top space. So I think that I don't think we're going to see stuff like the wide orbit deal that's been done in the States. I don't think we're going to see anything happening in linear anytime soon in the Asian markets because of the way that the governments are so involved.
And are you seeing that the model is going to be subscription-based, ad-based, a mix thereof?
Well, I think one of the things that's held cable back has been its addiction to subscription revenues. And I think that the measurement for cable has been very poor. The PAX survey, which they use as the main currency, really doesn't do much for helping to sell anything. I think that the cable companies have been able to survive on subscription revenues, and I think that the over-the-top services will put pressure on that, and I think that that we'll see some positive change from that.
We're going to talk about measurement now, and so maybe we'll come back a little bit to the economic piece in a second. Simon, we know that the accessibility of TV across multiple devices is really great from a consumer perspective, and as I say, we're excited that mobile is now measurable. But ThinkBox UK used a great phrase, which was that TV has had babies. But this obviously does make measurement extremely complicated. I know this is an area that you have great knowledge. I wonder if you dumb it down for the rest of us a little bit to understand where the friction points are and where you're seeing some interesting innovation around the measurement space.
Okay, I think TV's had dragons, actually. What is really interesting about this is this focus on the word television. We tend to use the word video. That video is premium video consumed by viewers, increasingly not in a linear fashion, although when you come down from a very large percentage, it's a small incremental reduction, whereas when you're coming up from a very low percentage, it's always seen as double or even triple digit growth. I think what we are seeing is a balancing out, and I'll just use an example in one moment on that. The key to all of this, though, is remember the television ecosystem is an extremely highly commercial one. It's established and it works. The reason we as agencies are there is to assist and work with our clients who want to get a consumer message about a brand out. You know, we could be here all day talking about that side of it, but just to the measurement bit. Very interesting seeing what TubeMogul have done. My first question would be, where are the reach figures? Where's the incremental reach per each insertion? Because as agencies, and our clients' requirement is reach. We trade GRPs or impressions divided by universe to get to a GRP, because that is the trading currency that the stations wish us to trade under. We actually deliver on reach, and we deliver on a whole host of different metrics for the client in terms of KPIs to report an ROI to the client. And we heard a lot of that this morning from two clients in particular. So the key thing for us on the agency side is we've got a model that we're using. Yes, we should question whether it's the right one, absolutely agree. But the programmatic side of it, I just find quite interesting because I've been doing programmatic for 30 years. We have optimization models that optimize reach. We have optimization and analytics systems that work, albeit on on panel-based data, and I'll come to the issue of that in a moment, but it gives us an incredible second-by-second or minute-by-minute analysis of what that panel is watching, and that is taken by the industry to be seen as the currency. Where the issue has arisen is with the enormous growth of channels over the last 10 years, in particular the last 5 years, in many countries. And the sample sizes on the panels are not big enough. So hence, the hybrid model is already adopted in Sweden. They already have across TV and online digital reporting, and they are trading on that currency. The Netherlands with SKO are already moving forward with that, with a multi-research partner system. We have Barb in the UK with Dovetail, where there is the original Barb gold standard. Onto that is added the mobile and tablet panel, and after that is going to be fused in the set-top box data, which is where the problem arises, and somebody mentioned it earlier today. Not every pay TV company wants to release their set-top box data for obvious commercial reasons. So we have to have the commercial appreciation of what may drive or may limit the marketplace. Within all of that, I mean, I've never been more excited in 35 years in the business as I am at the moment with what's going on. But I think we've got a lot of dragons breathing hot air that actually isn't catching fire. And we've got to work through to make sure that we're delivering to the client, the advertiser who's putting that investment in, the right ways to measure their investment. And whether that's the existing commercial model for TV, or I suspect it's going to be an adapted one, perhaps over the next 2 to 3 years in most markets. But I very much take Matt's point about, certainly in Asia, totally different environment where there's a lot of state-owned television.
I think we could probably take to another occasion a conversation of whether or not Barb-type models are a gold standard versus a set-top box level of data. I think that's an interesting conversation of research methodologies, and will panel bases continue to be relevant for measurement in an age of census data sets. But picking up on the point, it looks at the moment that the first iterations of linear programmatic TV, so AdSmart in the UK and Wide Orbit, which is looking a lot of local inventory in the US, is focusing on either zero rating spots or spots where a station average mechanic doesn't work. It seems to me that that is positioning TV as additive, programmatic TV as additive to an existing model, but is that not risking a positioning of this as a narrowcast technique that's only relevant to people that can't do TV properly? And maybe, Arun, I'd love you to maybe answer that first.
So I think going back to the point that Simon just made, I don't think the objective of advanced TV, for instance, is to create a new system of metrics. Because, for instance, the way we work with a plan is to look at the base plan that a client has, and then look at what is the incremental reach that advanced TV is going to add on top of that. And it has to make sense from the perspective of what that brand is trying to achieve, what are the markets that they're trying to achieve that in. And ultimately, that cost per incremental reach has to be more effective than what they could have bought on normal broadcast TV. Otherwise, why would you do it, right? So I think it starts off as being something additive, and that's where the conversation starts. And I think that that'll then lead to a conversation on how much more broad-based can you get? Because let's look at it. Today, it's about 3% of the total TV spend. It's not a sizable percentage. But as it starts to get more sizable, there will be that conversation. And I think that I don't see a scenario where we're going to completely change the way TV is operated for the last 60 years. And I don't think that that should be the objective either. Because you're not going to be able to go to advertisers who've got significant learnings for the last so many years on a medium and tell them that we're going to completely change all of that. I think it's about saying, what are these additional data sets going to allow you to do? So, for example, if you're getting reach on a broad demographic target, how are you going to get that on, let's say, auto intenders? But the concept of reach and incremental reach and GRPs are going to remain the same. I don't see that changing unless you're going for a pure performance campaign. But I do see the start-off point as being something that is additive before it morphs into something bigger.
I feel the same, by the way. And Simon, just so you know, I mean, you can go into our software and buy age and gender if you want to. But our insight is that while age and gender or GRPs will continue to be the currency of television that you can do so much more now. So if you can target males 18 to 35, but auto intenders as well, that's very powerful. The problem we're running into, as Simon alluded, is the data sets are really small. So they're small, they're panel-based, so it makes it difficult to do targeting at scale. And that's something that we hope some of the measurement companies in the room will help us resolve. The other measurement challenge that we're running into is advertisers want to buy video across screen, or at least they should want to buy video across screen. Yet we can't really do that. Cross-screen video is linear TV, video on demand, connected TV, and what we find ourselves doing is kind of hacking together Nielsen audience data and applying it to VOD buys, and then using the ad server data for VOD and connected TV buys, kind of mesh things together because we just don't have holistic TV measurement across all those screens yet. And that's probably the biggest problem that we have right now.
So,
Yeah, just 2 points to make on that. One thing I didn't mention, I mean, certainly in a number of markets, we have very, very capable product consumption targeting capabilities within the television planning and buying systems, because TGI, or MRI, as you have it in the States, has been fused in many, many countries. So that's the first point on that. And the second point, totally agree with you. I mean, but in terms of looking at whether it's linear TV and the immediacy of that, or is it the between 5 and 15% in most European countries. I know it's a lot higher in the States for time-shifted viewing, whether that be C3, C7, or indeed, as we're now measuring in the UK under Barb, 28-day, which is the catch-up cycle. So the industry's been adapting all the time. If it's pure play VOD, I mean, one of our clients is Netflix, so obviously we regard subscription VOD as quite an important medium, but not carrying any advertising as yet. However, it does disrupt the advertising channels. So from that point of view, the key is to get some form of way of having a consistent set of metrics and measurement, whether that's through fusion, whether that's through modeling, or whether that's through single source. I don't think in my lifetime, if ever, that's the way we need to move. So agree with you on that, but I think there are a lot more behavioral targeting and product consumption targeting capabilities in TV than many people who haven't been involved in direct TV planning and buying actually know about.
but again, I think there's an element that we're getting into the conversation exclusively from the industry perspective. And I think we need to step a little bit further away when we're considering the opportunity and look at the consumer behavior. And mentioning Netflix, I think, is very pertinent. And there's some statistics that I grabbed, because obviously we all like to reference a prejudice point with some statistics to make it sound reasonable. But in the US, 35% of all evening home bandwidth usage is Netflix streaming. And that contrasts with 14% for YouTube and 3% for Facebook. So the behavior is there, but obviously Netflix isn't taking advertising at this point, and we are, if we're talking about unique reach for video, if you want to buy video reach, we buy YouTube. We don't buy programmatic TV because it doesn't have the equitable reach. And the last panel talked about the frustration of not having a robust evaluation of context. And for too long, our industry has considered video with a single label to reference anything from companion banners through to VOD on a broadcast channel. So what can we do to bring more from the supply side into what would be akin to a TV paradigm for consumers that our brand advertisers will find much more attractive to move budget at scale? So maybe Brett, from a supply side, the conversations that I'm sure you're having, I'd love your perspective. And
Netflix is certainly a wonderful service, and they've been very vocal that they will never have ads. And I guess it's possible there's a world where consumers want to pay for everything, but I don't see that world. If that happens, Netflix certainly has to license a lot more content. Their rates will go up. So I think there's always going to be a mix of subscription and content or ad models. For TV companies to really get excited about this and make more inventory available on demand or programmatically, they have to believe that this is going to be additive to their business models. They have to believe that this is going to bring in new buyers and maybe at a higher price. And what I'm hoping is that programmatic TV could be a tool that networks and cable companies use to combat kind of all the audience that they're losing to digital right now. So if through new buyers and being able to sell the same impressions at a higher price, maybe even though they're losing viewers, they'll be able to maintain the economic value of their business.
Arun, from a Cadreon perspective, you must also be having conversations with the supply side to bring more people into your advanced TV ecosystem. I'd love you to give us some thoughts on the friction points that they are raising.
I think the biggest challenge for them is if you speak to the big network chiefs in the US, they're all conscious that this is a really big opportunity, but then it also comes down to their dilemma, which is they don't want the digital ecosystem replicated in TV. Because the moment you say programmatic, what they say is, what they see, the headlines are, it's cheap, it's all about being cheap. It's all about bots and fraud. And look at the breakdown in trust between the publishers and the advertisers. And they don't want that replicated. But at the same time, they also recognize that they have a lot of data. For them, it's the challenge is, do I build my own walled garden? Or do I work with someone like Google? But then, why would I give my data out? And then the question also is, so if advertisers bring their own data in, what's the value exchange? So if you know something about your consumers, which is going to help me understand more about viewing habits of my people, I want that exchanged. And I think that there's that trust issue, the credibility issue, which needs to be sort of overcome. But I think they're making the moves. You look at broadcasters like ESPN, they're already there. They're getting there, and the big broadcast networks are starting to understand the value of their own inventory and data, and they're willing to engage with us. The question really is, we've realized that in these conversations, we try and split the commercial conversation from what we're trying to achieve. We are not trying, so the moment you start having a conversation around, we want to create an exchange-led, auction-led marketplace, then you're just killing the market right then and there. That's not the objective. The objective is to see if we collaborate with someone like an ESPN and better understand their audience and share our data with them, how do we improve results for our clients? And we have seen it. We have seen it innumerable number of times that when we add that data layer on top of whatever Nielsen gives you, you're always able to find better results, whether it's brand metrics that you're measuring, or whether that's performance metrics that you're measuring, or whether you're just doing a test in a particular DMA or zone, we're seeing those results. But what's holding them back is they want to scale it, they just don't know which other partners to do it with. And there is a trust issue, because when they look at the programmatic digital ecosystem, they go, that's not what we want.
Matt, do you think that there's a likelihood or an opportunity for Asia to leapfrog some of the maybe more nervous advanced TV marketplaces?
Well, I think that if we do live in a world where linear television audience is retracting, and we live in a world where there are certain advertisers who are addicted to buying television, that if they don't buy a certain number of GRPs, they feel it across the counters in their stores, then those GRPs are going to have to be made up somewhere else. And that means that there's going to be a buying pressure that's going to happen, whether it's going to be the over-the-top guys, whether it's going to be the cable guys, whoever's going to be this white knight who's going to come in to save these advertisers. I think that still is yet to be seen. But I think that Asia's situation is slightly more volatile with the same thing that we've got, this government ownership. And with that government ownership, we've got monopolies, which don't necessarily lead to the best product. And we've also got incredibly high levels of inflation. If you talk to Arlene over there, she can tell you all about the Chinese television inflation numbers which are just shocking. To be able to keep your level of investment up year on year, and Thailand's the same. There are lots of other markets with excessively high television inflation. These two things combined means that programmatic probably has to happen in Asia sooner rather than later.
So do you mean from the perspective of taking an already overly demanded audience supply and fragmenting it so more people can buy at a higher aggregate yield footprint because it's been broken into smaller units, more qualified units of audience?
I think that there's just going to be the demand, whether it's incredibly fragmented or not, there's just going to be the demand, and if it can't be reached through linear television, it's going to have to be fulfilled elsewhere.
Okay. Slight shift, because I'm conscious we're down to the last 6 minutes. And I'll start with Simon, please. Who in the agency should be responsible for picking up the competence and the deployment of the part of the TV budget that is moving to programmatic model?
Wow. It will vary from client to client based on how the client's budgeting is done. It will vary in terms of whether it is a strategic comms planning priority. It will be whether it is a pure tactical planning. Is it a trading issue? Is it an execution issue? Is it a post-evaluation and analytics issue? Do we have data scientists involved with predictive?
But if it doesn't have a home, it's not going to move quickly, is it?
It depends how the agency has structured itself. And I know that we've spent a lot of time looking at the organisational structure within the 4 GroupM agencies, and indeed with our colleagues at Xaxis, in the most efficient way to do it. And so we have an agile, nimble way of having some flexibility to reflect those varying client needs. There is no one single solution, but in each case, a client team will be put together with the appropriate leadership that is required to actually deliver to the client's need.
Arun, please.
So the way we've done it is you need a combination of 2 different types of skill sets. You need people who understand what has been happening in the digital space and how do you work with data. And the second bit that you need is you need the TV traders and the agencies absolutely involved. So they have the relationships and they are the ones who actually own the budgets. Mm-hmm. So the way we work is we've got the data and the technology team purely focused on how do we bring those data sets to bear. And then we work with the trading teams, the trading and the planning teams, because there's a very, very important role for TV planning. The way TV planning has happened over the years, if you're going to want to make them shift budgets out from regular broadcast into the space, then you're going to have to work with the planners so that they're able to show right up front in the pre-planning stage as to what's the role of advanced TV. What is it really going to do? Is it there just to drop the CPRP? Is it there for a cost per incremental reach? Are you adding a particular audience you're not able to find? Or are you just trying to reach light TV viewers on other platforms? Because you're not able to find them on broadcast. So depending on that, so we work with the planning and buying teams. The relationships with the networks are always owned by the TV trading teams. We have not created any trading team within Cadreon that directly starts to do this, but we own the data. We're the ones who take the data and make it addressable, and we sit in those conversations with those TV stations. We're not driving the deals, and we will not do that. That's not our objective because we want to make this scale as quickly as possible. The only way to do that is to make the media agencies work with us. We're going to have to change as a programmatic unit in the way we do things, and they will have to change the way in which they've been doing TV planning and buying for years. So it's a change on both sides, but it's working well.
Great insights. Brett, so from your perspective, you're at the sharp edge of getting people onto your platform. Where are you finding that traction is most easy to achieve in terms of returning budget? Because I'm guessing there's a native community of digital buyers that will understand the platform, but as already been suggested, they may not control the budget flows that really need to move into the space. So I'd love to give you some practical experience, please.
Yeah, our early clients are essentially advertisers or agencies that are they're not addicted to GRPs, they're addicted to buying media through software, where they have all the control, where they quickly see what's happening, where they've got all of their reporting in one single system. And those are the advertisers that are spending right now. And I would characterize kind of the early programmatic spend as being kind of R&D-ish. However, the budgets are getting bigger, and I think a lot of advertisers are really excited about how much this could change their business. I mean, if you believe this works, it means that the largest part of most advertisers' budget could be a lot more efficient than it is now. The problem that we often run into is that many agencies and frankly, media owners still think in terms of silos. So they buy TV, they buy digital video, they buy Facebook video, and they don't have groups that just buy video, that use TV data as kind of the fulcrum of their strategy and plan holistically. And it'd be great to see more of that over time.
Slight change to the question, Matt. Many of the large population, less scaled in terms of yield markets in Southeast Asia, China, of course, haven't got the same legacy of ad tech adoption. Do you think that's going to be a factor that will maybe accelerate a TV model that's somewhat programmatic, or will that delay it?
I think that if we cross-reference back to what Arun was saying, I think that what GroupM calls trading, what Omnicom calls investment, I think that if those teams are the ones who are involved, and that the programmatic guys just do the execution, then I think that you've got the coming together of all of the right ingredients. It's really important that the people who are the TV planners are empowered and they don't feel as though anything's being taken away from them. Plus, moving this budgets or moving this new responsibility into the hands of the digital people is going to mean that they're going to have a whole lot of catch-up time and skills that they don't currently have. So I think that, probably the way that Arun's been discussing it and the way that I saw things happen within my own agency experience, I think that that works best. Putting it into perspective with your question, I looked specifically at the Thailand market a couple of years ago, and we did the experiment of actually doing this with the trading team, talking to the top advertisers, and we were able to eclipse the digital spend by just doing some experiments with cross-screen or multi-screen as we were presenting it to them. So I wouldn't say it would leapfrog, but I'd say that certainly the markets that have got tiny digital penetration could be vastly accelerated by television being introduced.
Great. So our time is up. So I just would like to close by going back to the initial three hypotheses, and I'd like one word from each of you. And let's say 3 years from today, when ICOM is presumably in another beautiful European city, maybe without direct flights. And is programmatic TV going to re-energize the TV commercial model, herald further instability, or be an insignificant footnote? Simon.
I think it's going to add significant benefits in terms of its data integration and process thoughts to what will be an extremely disruptive 3 years. And I think there are going to be some fairly serious arguments within that. However, in 3 years' time, I suspect we won't be talking about TV, video, programmatic TV. It will be the way in which video and client investment is managed.
I'll just say it'll disrupt things, and it'll disrupt things for the better.
Mm-hmm.
I echo Simon. I think TV is going to be bought through software, and we're simply going to be buying video seamlessly across all screens, probably in less than 3 years even.
I couldn't agree more. I think you guys have made all the right points, and now I feel really silly not having anything major to add.
Awesome. So, case, I think, approved. So can we have a show of hands? Who agrees with the panel that this is unavoidable?
It's inevitable.
Why did we bother having the panel? Thank you all very much.